The year is 1962. A 27-year-old engineer named John Backus is working at IBM when the company offers him a choice. He can take a senior research position in New York with full institutional backing, or he can join a small experimental team with no guaranteed funding and no clear mandate. The research position is the obvious move. Better title, more security, clear path forward. He takes the experimental team. Over the next 3 years, that team invents Fortran, the first widely used high-level programming language. It changes the entire architecture of how humans interact with computers. The work Backus does in that period shapes software development for decades. The research position he turned down was absorbed into a department that was restructured and eliminated 6 years later. Nobody told Backus his choice was the right one. It did not look like the right one. It looked like the riskier one. But one of those choices kept a door open that the other would have quietly closed. You have been making decisions that close doors without knowing it. Not because you are reckless, because you have been optimizing for the best available outcome in the conditions you can currently see. And the conditions you can currently see are not the conditions you will be operating in 5 years from now. You took the job that paid more. You specialized deeper into the area where you already had momentum. You committed to the path that looked most certain and cut off the alternatives because maintaining them felt like distraction. Every one of those choices made sense in the moment. Every one of them may have cost you more than you realize in the currency that matters most over time, which is the ability to change direction. The wound is not in the choice itself. It is in the way the choice was made. You were maximizing for what you could see, and the thing that matters most was just outside your field of view. The concept is this: every decision either keeps options alive or closes them, and the value of keeping an option alive is almost always larger than it looks in the moment you are deciding whether to keep it. Think of it like a card game where you are holding a hand and deciding whether to discard. The card you discard might be exactly what you need in 2 turns when the game changes. You cannot know that when you discard it. But the cost of discarding it is not the value of the card as it currently is. It is the value of what the card could become in conditions you cannot yet see. Career decisions work the same way. The choice that closes a door does not just cost you that door. It costs you every door that door might have led to. And those downstream doors are invisible when you make the original choice. The reason intelligent people keep closing doors they later wish were open is not stupidity. It is that the option value of keeping something alive is intangible. It does not show up in any spreadsheet. The salary of the job you took shows up immediately. The future possibility you closed by taking it shows up years later, indirectly, as a constraint you cannot quite name. In the winter of 1938, a 29-year-old chemist named Roy Plunkett is working at DuPont on refrigerant gases. He is not trying to invent anything. He is attempting to make a specific compound as part of a narrow research task. One morning, he opens a pressurized cylinder that should contain tetrafluoroethylene gas and finds it empty, but the cylinder weighs the same as it did when full. Something has polymerized inside. He cuts the cylinder open. The substance coating the inside of the cylinder is extraordinarily slippery, inert to almost every chemical and stable at extreme temperatures. DuPont patents it. It becomes PTFE, sold commercially as Teflon. An entire industrial category emerges from a morning where a scientist did not discard an anomalous result, and instead followed the open door it represented. Plunkett did not know what he had found. He kept the option alive by paying attention to the unexpected, rather than dismissing it as a failed experiment. The discovery was not in the plan. It was in the space that remained open because he did not close it prematurely. The deeper pattern here is not about lucky breaks. It is about the structural difference between people who treat every decision as a final commitment and people who treat every decision as a provisional position. They are willing to revise when new information arrives. Both groups look identical from the outside in normal conditions. The difference appears when conditions change and new options emerge that only the second group can access. In the Ottoman Empire of the late 16th century, the practice of training palace officials in multiple disciplines rather than narrow specializations produced administrators who could shift between roles as circumstances demanded. When a particular territory required a military response, they had military-trained officials available. When it required commercial negotiation, they had officials trained in trade. The rigidly specialized empires competing with the Ottomans in that period could not adapt at the same speed, because their human infrastructure had been built to execute a fixed strategy rather than to respond to a changing one. Flexibility at the structural level was built from flexibility at the individual level. You are closing doors in your career right now by treating your current direction as settled. You picked a lane and you are going deep into it because depth feels like progress. It is progress. But depth in a single direction is also a narrowing. The skills you are not maintaining are atrophying. The relationships outside your current field are fading because you have no immediate reason to keep them warm. The projects you put on hold because they did not fit the current strategy are being forgotten. You are building a career that is optimized for the world as it currently is, and careers that are optimized for the present are not optimized for the conditions that will exist when you need to make the next major move. The option you are not keeping alive right now is the one you will regret not having when something changes that you did not see coming. The principle is this: before closing any door, ask what it would cost to leave it open for 6 more months. This is not a call for indecision. It is a structural rule for how to make commitments without making them irreversible. The person who takes the senior role and simultaneously maintains one external relationship in a different field has not split their focus meaningfully. They have bought an option on a different future at minimal cost. The person who takes the senior role and severs every connection to everything else has committed fully to a world where that direction remains viable forever. What you give up is the feeling of total commitment. Full commitment to a direction produces a specific kind of confidence. It removes ambiguity. It simplifies decisions. Every door you close makes the remaining doors feel more certain. But the certainty is partially an illusion created by the absence of visible alternatives. What you get in return is the capacity to respond to a world that does not hold still. Not every option you keep alive will become valuable. Most of them will not. But the one that does, in the moment when the conditions you planned for stop being the conditions you are operating in, will be worth more than everything you invested in keeping all of them alive. You have been making decisions as if the future is a fixed continuation of the present. It never is. The door you close today because it is not relevant to your current situation might be the only door available to you in 3 years. You cannot know which door that will be, which means the cost of closing any door is always larger than it looks on the day you close it. Most people only understand this after a door they closed is no longer there to reopen. That is when they start leaving doors open. And by then, the specific door they needed has already been gone for years. Next video. The most successful careers over 50-year periods were built by people who made fewer large, irreversible commitments than their peers, not more. The counterintuitive mathematics of how optionality compounds over time will change how you think about every major decision you are facing right now. Small, irreversible choices made early become the walls of a room you did not design.